everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Angel Azzarra, and I'm a professional opera singer and voice teacher. And today I'm going to be reacting to and analyzing Dimash Kudaibergen's performance of Daididau, which I wanted to find a version of him singing it at the singer competition that wasn't getting copyright strikes, but the only one I could find was Gloria Wu. I know a lot of you have recommended her channel to me, but she avoids copyright strikes by manipulating the pitch or the speed of a piece, and that affects the voice too much for me to really be able to go into detail like y'all know I like. So instead I found a recording of him singing it at the Daididau concert, which was in 2017, but I know it does kind of fudge the timeline a little bit. And so for that, forgive me. I still think it was a better choice than Gloria Wu because of the manipulation. But yeah, this is the fourth song in my Dimash journey. So if you are interested in following along, please go ahead and look at the first three or subscribe to see the next couple ones that are coming. Let's get started. I hear in the beginning a much brighter color than I've heard from him before. It almost is very plaintive and very, I don't want to say white because he's definitely not a voix blanche, but there's something to it that feels very empty. It's like a whiter color than I'm used to hearing. It's not ugly by any means, it's just very still. He's not using very much resonating space at all for this section. It's very well controlled in that it's still a balanced sound, maybe slightly brighter than normal, but not by a huge differential, only by a tiny amount. But because he is using such a small portion of the potential of his voice, as in the potential volume of his voice, it comes across just a little bit stronger. But really the technical balance of resonance is quite 50-50, maybe a little like 55-45. But he's resonating, it's almost like it feels in between the hard and soft palate when you're singing it. If you can go and put your tongue between your hard and soft palate and just hum with the tip of your tongue right in between, that's where it sort of feels as if it's bouncing off of that alveolar ridge. Although the resonating, of course, is happening between the naso and oropharyngeal space and also down here with sympathetic resonance. But it feels that way, and I'm sure that that is the technique that he's using to achieve this. No. He's also keeping his mouth in quite a small aperture, which makes sense for what he's doing right now. I'm hearing this da 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 which almost has, I am not familiar with Kazakh culture at all. So to me, it sounds like there is almost an Arabic quality to the ornaments that he's putting in. I'm sure that they are Kazakh, but what my ear is used to is hearing those ornaments in Arabic music. And it's really always interesting for somebody who's trained, whether it's classical or pop or musical theater or whatever. But a white girl like me from the United States, hearing Eastern European music or Eastern music as opposed to Western European classical derived music, it's so interesting to hear the ornamentation of such a vastly different musical culture. And that type of ornamentation, though it's very small, it really does require a very relaxed larynx because it's moving, the voice box is moving very quickly to change, not the pitch, but to change that little bit of register that's happening there. Again, you're hearing those da 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 da. When I say register, I don't mean register in terms of pitch, in terms of passaggio. I mean register in terms of he's sort of manipulating, not a negative word, but manipulating a registral break in the color that he's doing. Almost like yodeling. With yodeling, it's a much bigger pitch difference, but it's still a color difference in the way that they are singing. They're going from chest to head. And for him, it sounds almost like he's breaking from falsetto into chest or chest into falsetto. That's only really an analogy for what he's doing. I would need to hear it slowed down quite a bit to know exactly what register he's shifting in and out of on those pitches, those very close together pitches. But it's just too fast. They go by very quickly. And hearing that, ah, and then immediately going back into a gentle falsetto with a little bit of breath. And again, that ornament that involves just a little bit of a break in the voice. It's just another example of how versatile he is and how quickly he can go back and forth between. So beautiful. How is he able to belt with such a round sound? That is that's what's wild to me. All of it's wild to me. But belting with such a round sound is so difficult to do because you just don't have space in the back of your throat. When you're creating a belt, it's the complete opposite of classical. Classical music is a smaller aperture, a tall oval aperture with lots of space in the back, almost like a bellows, like when you're stoking a fire. And when you belt, it's more like a megaphone. But he's sort of making it to where it's almost even. He's got all of this space in the back, so he has this dark, round sound, but he still has the aperture of a belt. And it's creating, it's a mixed belt, obviously, because it's so high. Like every belt that high is mixed, unless you're just skrelting, which I don't ever want to listen to. The mix still sounds purely balanced and a pure, strong belt. But it's just so round and dark, and such a high belt for it to be that way is impressive. And it's a lot of navigating, not how it sounds, because when he's singing, he can't go based on sound, because you can't really tell what you sound like when you are the instrument making the noise. It's like if you played the violin, but you were sitting inside of the violin, you can't really hear what's happening. But he's going completely off of physical sensation, which when it's something that is harder to control, because it's much harder to create space in your throat on that level of specificity than it is to say, I'm going to pinch my fingers together. Like, this is something that's very easy for me to do. But for me to say, okay, I'm going to create a very oval opening in the back of my throat, and then the aperture that you make at the front of the mouth, that's easy to manipulate. But the space in the back is very tricky to manipulate, especially when you're doing it with such a wide aperture that's used to having a megaphone sensation, and he's forcing it to be more straight so that he has this beautiful round belt. It's tricky, to say the least. When he does the you hear that he's taking a little bit of time before it's not a glottal, it's not a coupe de glotte where he's going see that but he is, I think, focusing enough to make sure that it's more balanced of an onset. And then he goes into the breath, the excess breath in the tone on Daididau, and then back into a clean tone without the breath. Difficult to manage, and it's definitely not difficult to manage on a resonance end, but difficult to manage on a breath end, because the support changes. When you have a breathy tone, you think that you're pushing more air through, but actually when you create a breathy tone, you're sort of dropping out of your support. La, da, da. If I were to be breathy on the top note, which he wasn't, la, da, da. Way too breathy. But all I did was go from having a supported torso and abdomen and your intercostal muscles, which keep your ribs out, to completely collapsing that. And then the air is, yes, it's expelled through, but it's not pushed through. It's just like you're carrying weight and then you drop it. That's all it is. And he's dropping out, but then coming back in on the same phrase. Wow. I actually think this might be my favorite song that I've reacted to so far. You can tell he's so comfortable. I mean, this is a concert and not the singer competition, so he's incredibly comfortable. And it's also in his native language, which helps elevate it even more. Not that he's not comfortable singing in other languages, but something about this piece just speaks to me very much. And I feel like this is the one where I've heard the widest range of colors. From when I heard his belt in SOS, it was an incredible belt, but it didn't have that roundness to it that he has here, which is so impressive to me, to have that sort of like extra disciplined creation of space in the back of the throat for the round tones of that belt. and also the color at the beginning, and then making it very circular and having that same sort of plaintive white color at the end as well, just sort of like wrapped up the song perfectly for me. I really think that this is my favorite performance so far. So I'm still really looking forward to Ogni Pietra. I'm really looking forward to Sinful Passion and Unforgettable Day and all of the other ones that I'm going to react to. I have not watched them yet, and it is so frustrating to not watch them, but I'm really trying to save it until I'm in front of the camera with you guys. So please like and subscribe to follow on the journey, especially for Ogni Pietra, because I know I'm gonna absolutely freak out when I get to finally listen to it. So thank you so much for continuing on with Dimash journey number 4. There is more coming, so please like and subscribe, and toi 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 until next time.